Okay.
Good morning, everyone. This is a public hearing this morning to hear comments on the proposed new ordinance on the county solar energy systems. And it's on the agenda for later on at our regular meeting. And we ask for comments. We ask that you try to restrict them to 5 minutes. I would like to turn it over to Lisa Ellis, and she will head up the public hearing. Lisa?
Yep, good morning. I don't know whether you've all had an opportunity to read the ordinance draft, but this only applies to commercial facilities, not to those that are tied to your personal home or business. And those would be those that whose primary purpose is for the wholesale sales of generated electricity. And in our definitions, we go through a little more about that on page 2 to define it. And in this document, when we're referring to these, we refer to them as solar energy systems, or SESs, which are a part of the larger solar project. And those definitions are on page 2. So the purpose is to assure the protection of health, safety, welfare, and property values to Edgar County residents and landowners, to avoid the adverse impact on important areas such as agricultural land, endangered species habitats, conservation land, and other sensitive lands, to assure that any development and product of solar generated electricity in Edgar County is safe and effective, to promote the supply of solar energy in support of the state of Illinois' statutory goal of increasing energy production from renewable energy resources, and to facilitate economic opportunities for local citizens. Now, as an unzoned county, we have no master plan. And the purpose of the ordinance is to provide the framework for enabling landowners to build, but with respect to non-participating landowners and homeowners. So this is not a philosophical conversation, but this is actually taking a look at the ordinance and how we can provide a framework for assuring that a landowner has the opportunity to build on their property, but with respect to surrounding landowners and property owners and homeowners. I'd like to start out, Dina, if you don't mind. I had asked Dina Hassler, our supervisor of assessments, to provide some information to us just for comparison, because I did not know. And I really appreciate Dina's quick work, because I just asked her this yesterday, to give us some idea of the difference in tax revenue on a philosophical 100 acres of farm ground, what the revenue is when it is in grain production versus when it's part of a solar system.
And I will start with the fact that I don't have a lot of experience with solar. We have one tiny little solar field in Edgar County right now that's 3.5 acres. So with that being said, that 3.5 acres generates 0.54 megawatts. That's a nameplate capacity. That is what they can produce. I have no idea if that's what they actually produce, but they have to tell me what they are able to produce, nameplate capacity, and that's 0.54 megawatts. So in order to come up with 100 acres, the only thing I need to do was, assuming land acreage and megawatts are a ratio that would be comparable, 3.5 acres times 28.5 times is 100 acres. So I took megawatts times 28.5 times, went through all the process. You have to use a trending factor that's based on the consumer price index. You have to depreciate it specifically in a 25-year increment. All that being said, for 100 acres, my best guess would be a tax bill of $71,004 and some change, $71,400 for a 100 acre parcel total. I randomly chose some 100 acre tracts in Kansas Township, simply because that's where solar's knocking on our door the closest. and tax on 100 acres ranged from about 4,200 down to 2,800, depending on soil types, your combination of taxing bodies, et cetera. So anywhere from 28 to 4,200 and some change for a 100-acre tract is tax bill versus my guess at 71,000 if 100 acres was in solar panels. And again, that's simply taking our 3.5 acres, 28 times and a half equals 100 acres, so taking the same 0.54 megawatts. I think that works relatively because I did speak with Matthew Long, who is Vermilion County's SA. He had a 20-acre field, and it provided, I think he said 3 megawatts. So I figured, well, our 3.5 acres times 6 is about 20 acres, so the same thing would work. The megawatts, 0.54 times 6 would be about 3. So I mean, I think it seems the acreage and the megawatt is relative, so.
Okay, thank you for doing that, yes, I greatly appreciate that. So that's how I wanted to open this up, so we're ready for public comment? Do we have any public comment?
I'll kick it off. Yeah, my name's Kirk Allen. Do you know if anybody within the state is trying to identify a statute for assessments like they do with solar or with wind?
There is one now. There is a statute for, yes, it's in the tax code for wind or solar.
Okay. Was that something that they just recently did on the new energy bill?
2017 is when it was enacted.
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts in here. One on the setback. Can you let us know where that 500 came from versus any other number shorter or further apart? I don't know how many have driven by the one that's in Ashmore, but depending on the direction and whether it's morning sun or evening sun, boy, it can be a doozy at certain times of the day. I think in your ordinance you've got 500-foot setback from structure. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. Any reason we went with that versus say 250 or 750?
500, I researched quite a few ordinances in Illinois and Indiana. 500 was, I cannot quote to you at the moment which one, there was only one that had a setback that was that far. And the rest of them were very minimal or not mentioned specifically.
Okay. The only other thing that jumped out at me, and this is one that might be a simple solution, but the coordination with local fire department and Edgar County Emergency Management says upon request by local fire department or EMA, the owner or operator shall cooperate with the agency to develop the agency's emergency response plan. When you say a local fire department, is that going to be only the fire department that has that in their district? Because we all do mutual aid, and it might be advantageous that enough equipment is centrally located, whether it be with ESDA, to where if we have something, we can pull from that instead of each individual fire department, have to say, hey, I need it. Because from the solar standpoint, their negative is going to be, well, I'm going to have to supply Kansas, I'm going to have to supply Chrisman, I'm going to have to supply. If they can centrally locate everything that's going to be needed, because your chances of having multiple events at the same time are pretty slim, but to centralize that equipment need in one location would be a huge plus, I think, from a logistics standpoint, and it would lessen the burden, from the commercial standpoint of them having to supply that to the department. Just a food for thought as an amendment to that. That's all I've got.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kurt.
I do want to share, I did not find fire protection and emergency management in any other ordinances. But I will tell you, I had a lengthy conversation over a year ago with somebody whose husband is in the commercial fire suppression business. And she's the one who brought it, because I have no idea how you fight a solar fire. But she said that it is foam, and which is what led me to be concerned. Now, if that is truthful or not, if there's another way, I don't know, but it made me realize we need a plan. And not only because maybe a solar field would have a fire, but the fire could, like we had here last year, the fire can start in the field, but it's going to affect it, especially if they haven't mown yet.
Right. Depending on the inverter systems they have, if they're, and the step-down transformers, if they're using hydrocarbons in those transformers, those require what's called a Class B foam. Class B foams are toxic. You've probably seen all the commercials now, if you've been around AFFF foam. That is an issue because most agencies in our district don't carry Class B foam because we don't have petrochemical facilities to support it. Robinson's is the closest place that does. So the transformers would require foam, but all the rest of it, you're talking about electrical fire. And the last thing we're gonna be doing is throwing water and foam on it. It's a whole different animal. And it's the same problems that we have with electric vehicles in those situations. It's a whole new game. And there is substantial equipment and training that needs to go into that.
To that end, Kirk, we're including it in the next hazardous mitigation plan.
Okay,
Okay, so that we can be available to, to put in for grants and coordinate and work with IEMA on it.
yeah,
Okay.
I suspect most of their primary fire concerns are gonna be, like in Ashmore, you'll see all the trailers they have all over that farm. That's where all of their transformers and step-down transformers and converters are at. That's typically where you'd see a problem, unless it was a grass fire from, whatever. But we definitely don't wanna put water on most of that.
Thanks, Kirk.
You bet.
Does Ashmore have any special equipment?
No, in fact, I was out of town, I think it was last week, the solar farm there got a hold of Clay in Ashmore, the chief there, and they did a walkthrough, kind of a, hey, here's the update. But my understanding from what I was told last night at our meeting, there's a whole lot of information that didn't get expressed from the corporate side. I wasn't there, so I can't say that was factual, but there's a lot of concerns that I'm familiar with from my background that, didn't get shared with those guys. So it's definitely something that takes some expertise to walk in there and say, well, what about this, this, and this? We kind of dealt with some of that same stuff with the solar, or the wind stuff. The wind people are gonna say, hey, we're gonna provide everything. Well, that's high angle rescue stuff, and nobody here has high angle rescue. I think Paris might have a couple guys certified now, but, that whole thing. What?
You?
I don't carry the certifications anymore.
I was.
No, but it's one of those things where you really need to have a good plan, and I think in your ordinance, they provide the emergency plan. That needs a plan that's bounced off of emergency personnel, but, whether it be U of I's Fire Service Institute, places of that nature that can really critique what they're telling you. Because there's a whole lot more to some of this.
They have a fire in a solar farm area that it's not gonna really bother too many people, right?
Correct.
So,
In this business, we have in my department and most departments, we risk little to save little, risk a lot to save a lot. If the risk is something that has no life hazard, no resident property hazard, there's very little we're gonna do other than surround it and try to contain it from moving. We're not gonna do a whole lot else other than that.
Any other comments?
You go ahead. Okay. Wasn't really intending to say anything today, but I do have a couple questions and comments. My name's Rita Rogers. So I do appreciate the time that's been put into this. I can tell that there has been a lot of time, and I want to just start off with saying I do appreciate some of the language, like the tile language. That's good. And the lighting, like those kind of things, I really appreciate that. On the aspect of this not being a philosophical issue, number 4 in purpose, to promote the supply of solar energy and to support a state of Illinois statutory goal of increasing energy production. If it's not philosophical, should we be in a position of promoting or deterring? Just adding that thought. Really the goal of any government should be protecting property rights from both, twofold. Protecting the property rights of, those involved who want to put solar on their property, and then also protecting the rights of those who, are going to be living next to these. And then I just wanna add on number one, protecting property values. There's really no way to do that. You know, with a 500-foot setback, your property value is going to be tanked regardless, you know? I would not want to live next to a solar farm 500 feet, and I wouldn't buy a home next to one. So if there's a solar farm 500 feet from my house, nobody's gonna buy it at the value it is worth. And then, on number three, safe and effective, can we define that? I think that's a phrase, pairing that's been thrown around a lot in the last 2 years, and nobody seems to define it. I will say that it's somewhat, safe might be somewhat defined in other standards, but effective, you know, what does effective mean? And then, I guess, the simultaneous use of areas for land for both solar and generation of, or solar power generation and agricultural. That's not really possible. You can't simultaneously use land, it's one or the other. So I think that's a fancy word thrown around by solar farm facility, you know, companies, whatever you wanna call them, that's not actually a possibility. It's one or the other. And then just, this is neither here nor there, but I just wanna put it on the record that according to Forbes, 80% of solar panels right now are produced in China. Just so we know that. That's all.
Thank you, Rita.
Oh, wait, one more question. Under D, under remedies, the $1,000 fine that would be assessed after, I think it was 60 days notification or something, is that to the company?
Rita, what page is that on?
I think the second class.
10. So that's a daily fine,
For the, is that the owner of the land or the company?
the company.
Okay, and so I guess my question there is that enough to deter wrongdoing for these companies that are functioning with billions of dollars?
Excuse me, do you have handouts, those papers like she has?
I printed this off
Oh,
the
you printed that,
website,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's online.
Okay,
There's a copy of it if you wanna look at it.
oh, thank you.
Anybody else? Please? Hi.
I'm Janelle DeBlois, and I'm trustee for my family's farm. We have been approached by solar, and my biggest concern is, are there any ordinances made for cleanup if they, if they go broke, or, they said that there is a state statute that they have to, fund before they can start it. It's too new to know that if there's anything that's, any repercussions about the cleanup, and that's one of my biggest concerns.
The state standard she's referring to is this document that is for commercial solar. They did not have this available for wind, and to my knowledge, there still isn't. It's the Standard Agricultural Impact Mitigation Agreement. There is a lot of meat to this document, which was somewhat reassuring. And it does also, that's where they were getting that information about decommissioning standards. And then we also put it into ours, but the most important thing is your contract as an individual landowner.
We
They put
recommend.
it in there, but.
We recommend, and I know I've talked to other individuals, that you retain counsel so that you can
Sure.
make sure that you explore all of your options.
Sure.
And that your counsel perhaps is somebody that Illinois Farm Bureau would recommend, not just the person who does your regular estate work.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks.
Yes, Kirk?
Just one other thing back on the fire issue. It says in here, in addition, at no cost to the local fire department, the owner or operator shall provide to the local fire department any and all specialized and necessary rescue or firefighting equipment. Who determines what is or is not the equipment? There may need a qualifier in that, because they could say, well, we don't think you need that. Could we put as determined by the fire department? Something that puts, here's what they say they need, then they have to provide it. Otherwise, the way it's written,
Is there a standard?
unfortunately, there's not at this point.
Well, I'm just asking.
Yeah, there's not at this point. The NFPA standards, I've not found anything that addresses this type of stuff.
I just didn't want to wind up in litigation over an issue for 4 years.
Well-
While we're trying to litigate whether, you know what I mean? And
Right.
they have the resources to do that when we know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it says that may be necessary, and that's the open-ended, who determines what's necessary? So that may be necessary or as identified by the fire department. And then it's something that can be discussed. I don't think that would dive into litigation at that point, but I could see them saying, we had this situation with the petrochemical that moved out east of town when they were trying to put it in town. I think it's FS now, but I don't remember what it was before. But they were trying to put it in town, and the standards then, it's like, guys, we don't have any foam to take care of this kind of gasoline storage right there in our town. And they didn't want to supply any of that stuff. And fortunately, we got it moved out of residential area because we don't have any zoning, but this is a very similar thing. The fire department needs to be the one in control of saying, we need X, Y, Z, and here's why. If they can justify it, it shouldn't be an issue. And I can't imagine there's gonna be that much equipment, but there is gonna be some specialized equipment, much like your power line people carry on their rigs.
Lisa, can we handle that in permitting too, and shore this up later? I mean, not later, I mean, anyway.
I think adding as identified by the department would clean that up.
And/or ESDA,
Or, yeah,
and/or, because
You-
that way
you bet.
ESDA could be using some state.
right. And I think ESDA probably ought to be the primary, that way they're not having to buy.
That's
for
what
every
I was looking for, something that would be,
Okay.
if you go to one department, they want this, one department,
That's-
and that way ESDA can be the sorting, I like that.
Yeah, I think that would be great, as long as there's someone who has the final say, they're the entity that has the final say, and it's not an open-ended negotiation between, the outlet.
Thanks, Kurt.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
My name is Glenda Waller. I'm a landowner in Edgar County. I just simply want to state that I appreciate this being an educational, informative, and bringing us up to speed about all of this information. You've done a great job of getting information out to us, and I think I'm trying to figure out a way to get it submitted to other landowners. I'm just thinking right now of the Ukraine situation, that if we take a lot of our highly productive farm ground out of production, and there's like 40 million people right now, they're not gonna be able to plant a crop this year. And we need all productive farm ground to be in production with crops rather than solar farms. But I feel, I really appreciate getting the information out there. You're evaluating things before we get caught flat-footed with the solar people coming in like the wind farm people did. So I just appreciate the information.
You're
Thank you.
very kind, thank you. Wyatt, did you want to make a comment or anything? I mean, you don't have to, I just, we work together and
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for considering having Farm Bureau be a part of getting this right and getting on the books. I know I've said it once and I'll say it again, there are other counties that are not in this position and they're not as open to working with Farm Bureau and other entities, and we appreciate all of your help in letting us make this right to protect landowners' rights.
And I will share with you that after I got the first draft done, I sent it on, and Farm Bureau looked at it, gave me some excellent information and suggestions. And then after that, then I sent it to our new Assistant State's Attorney, Tim Gilbert, who really went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I thoroughly appreciate his input. And then I sent it back to Illinois Farm Bureau, so it has had a lot of eyes on it, but every conversation that I have brings up another point. And so, as we have said with the wind, this is not a stagnant document. It can always be a living document. We can always update it. This is our first stab, but the more detailed we get in the beginning, the less likely we are for someone to come in and sneak something in on us that we didn't know about or aware of. I do want to add that just like with wind, there is a separate road agreement. If anyone is concerned about the impact on your roads, you do need to make sure that if you don't already have one, that you develop a relationship with your township road commissioner. The township road commissioner in that township or townships will have a close relationship with the Edgar County engineer, and they are the ones that will put together their road use agreement. The other thing is, whether or not it is an issue, I can't say, but there has been some concern about water quality. So if you are concerned that perhaps a solar or a wind farm would affect your water, then you need to get with the Edgar County Public Health Department, because they have the sample containers, and you need to get your water tested so that you have a baseline in case you are concerned about that in the future and you suspect there has been an issue. And that's really something that all of us should do anyway, is to find out our water quality and the safety of it.
I can't tell you. Yes, ma'am,
I do have one more question,
please.
and it pertains to Dina. Do you have any idea about the values that this is it going to lower the values years down the road? Because they do offer quite a bit in what they pay you for per acre versus farm rent in my part of the ground. We just have basically timber ground, so it isn't as good as what, other areas are. But if we were gonna sell this in the future, would it impact the values, or do you know yet?
We wouldn't know until we've had a chance to study sales, but I can tell you, we have seen normal sales of houses around these Ameren poles that they put in. We haven't really seen any effect on those in nearby properties. We're still paying prices that are comparable to other properties or larger poles, so same kind of thing we have to watch.
Our farm is pretty remote, so there aren't a lot of houses around it. But I thought might be a good thing because of the income that it would generate. But I didn't know if you had any examples of it.
No. Because the only field we have here is out north here by Edgar Electric or whatever it's called now. That's the only field we have.
Yeah.
And they got the houses on Blue Heron Road. We've seen, what few sales are happening in that area. There's been no change because they're near the solar.
And I couldn't quite hear what you said, but for 100 acres, you said on the tax bill it would be 2,800 to.
It's just 3 random fields, and depending on the combination of tax, the highest one, I think, for 100 acres, the tax bill was 4,200.
Oh,
Which-
4,200.
There was a
Which is
flood.
paid by the company, not by
Right,
the
it
landowner,
is.
right?
The taxes are, and that's something I thought I might mention too, it clearly says, if you say I have a 160 acre tract and they wanna buy 40 of it, they're required by law to survey out specifically that tract, provide the survey to us so that we can separate the parcel. Because if they go bankrupt, they don't pay the taxes, you don't want your entire farm being in that litigation. So they must survey out what they're gonna use or any kind of easement roads they're gonna use. That has to be on a survey. That has to be by a licensed Illinois surveyor. It has to be recorded and provided to us.
Again, back to the qualified, somebody has some experience as a lawyer, you need to get them involved
Yeah, yeah.
to
Because if they
protect
go
you.
bankrupt and aren't able to pay the taxes on it, then who does that revert to, the landowner then?
It's provided in the statute that the landowner, if he chooses, can pay the taxes to prevent it to going into tax sale. But it's like any other property, they don't pay the taxes and it goes unpaid, it goes through the process of a tax sale. So, yeah, it's what Jeff said, you need to have a good lawyer look over these.
Qualified.
What township do you live in? Or is your property?
Vermillion.
I don't know, it's Elbridge County, I'm not
Okay,
sure what
so out
township it is.
east. I know, several months ago, a guy down in Clark County, he was drowned in Sims Township and east of Oliver, and him and other people have been approached by people wanting to put a solar farm. So I'm just curious where they're starting to look at it. So
Yeah.
obviously Kansas, and then, Elbridge, and then Sims, so we've just got 3 areas that people are.
Same with it, just south of NAL too.
It's in the Elbridge area, I can't remember what
That's
township.
Elbridge Township,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, this has been a nice public hearing. I appreciate everybody's being here and contributions. I especially want to note that Lisa and her committee have been extremely thorough. The board has been patient and looked at all different aspects. Dina, as you can tell, our staff is very thorough, and we appreciate everybody's efforts. Thank you, Lisa. And this does end our public hearing. Thank you. We'll start up the meeting here in a few minutes.
All right, we're ready.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our March regular board meeting. Sorry for the delay. We just want to give ourselves a little time to regroup. So we'll go ahead and start the board meeting by reciting the pledge. Would you all please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here this morning. We have kind of a brief, at least I think it'll be a brief board meeting, but we'll see how that winds up. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Certainly. Bruner.
Here.
Ellis.
Yes. here.
Farnham.
Here.
Lawton.
Here.
Luddington.
Here.
Patrick.
Yes, here.
Voigt.
Here. First item of business that we need to vote on is the minutes from the February 9th regular board meeting. You've had those in your possession. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes as presented to you? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Phil moves. Andy seconds. Assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? They are approved. Thank you, folks. Claims against the county. You've likewise had those for a few days. Do you have any questions? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the claims against the county. Dan moves. Russ seconds. Assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? They are approved as presented. County board member claims. You've had those before you. Are there any additions or questions or anything? Hearing none, a motion to approve those claims. Russ moves. Phil seconds. Assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? They are approved. Now we come to the portion of the meeting where we ask the public to make comments to the board. We ask that you identify yourself if you would, please. It's not actually a requirement, but it'd be nice to know who you are. And to try to keep your comments within 5 minutes. The rostrum is there, so if somebody has any comments, we'd certainly welcome you to make any. You don't want to tell us what a good job we're doing or anything?
Doing a fine job.
All right, well, and if something comes up or something that you may want to make a comment, just raise your hand and we'll see what's up and address your issue.
I think he's feeling it.
Okay, Highway Department is the first order of business. Resolution authorizing the county board chairman to sign supplemental BLR 05530 with civil design for the Camp Bridge. Where? Oh, there you are. I'm used to you being over here, Aaron. Do you have any comment to make so the audience knows what we're doing?
Other than what we talked about Monday, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Board members? Motion to authorize that resolution, please. Russ moves. Andy seconds. Further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk?
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Lawton,
Yes.
Luddington,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
It is approved as presented. Thank you. Next, the SES ordinance. Lisa, do you want to make a, you can make a verbal change on the ESDA deal if you want to, and still approve the ordinance, okay?
Okay, good, thank you. 'Cause was
I
just
mean,
asking
or
just
anything
how to
else
do
you
that.
want to do. I mean, the board is not restricted to the document as presented. We can
Okay.
cross out and write in something and have it reproduced
Okay.
correctly and then sign it.
Yes, as Kirk had suggested, on the fire and ESDA section, to alter that the plan would be determined by the solar folks to state as determined by local fire department and or ESDA.
Well, don't we don't want to make that, don't we want to say ESDA on behalf of the fire departments rather than making it, I mean, Kirk, weren't you suggesting that ESDA would be the,
I think from the equipment standpoint, I think ESDA should be the central entity that, instead of a whole bunch of departments, but then on the plan, it needs to be determined by the fire department and ESDA. Basically saying, here, we created a solar farm, or whatever the company is, here's what our plan is.
so ESDA would work with the local departments to
Yeah.
develop the plan, but the equipment would be
ESDA,
passed on by ESDA.
yeah, whatever the equipment, whatever that plan creates, they have to buy the equipment and have it centrally located, and that way they don't have the burden of 8 fire departments having to go buy equipment for each one of them that has a solar farm.
Is that clear as mud, Lisa?
I think so.
Okay.
Get home and-
I just wanted to flesh it out if we're gonna do
Thank
it.
you. And the other was, it was suggested to me, you might wanna go back and take a look at your document on page 5, number 3. In the middle of that paragraph, and I took this language from another county and I understood what they were saying. Any drainage district tile for which there is no existing easement shall be protected from disturbance by a 30 feet wide no construction buffer on either side of the drainage district tile. It was suggested to me that instead of a no construction buffer, it was a no travel buffer. That way, that tile was protected not only during the construction phase, but throughout the entire project.
Should we maybe put no construction / transportation? So that they go, well, we're just gonna do a little work there and then we're gonna leave, and then they do the same damage. If we have it both in there, then that, I mean, yes, Kurt.
Did you say that was tile in a drainage district?
Any drainage district tile for which there is no existing.
Take that word district out.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
we ran into that problem down here south. You know, he had a bunch of tile that was smashed and, he had to go back in and fix it.
Yeah, wherever it says drainage district, just,
Right.
Because you may have tile that's not part of the drainage district,
Exactly.
that's poor sap that's
Most of it's
screwed.
probably not gonna be a part of the drainage district.
so we'll just take the term drainage district out of that whole paragraph. Anywhere where it prevails. How's that? And that way, everybody's tile is protected,
Okay,
okay?
great, thank you.
No, I think that's good.
This here, do you wanna address this now or later?
And Jeff, I'm looking for some guidance. And for the public, we did receive a letter with feedback and opinions from a Cypress Creek Renewables on our ordinance. And there were 3 points or 3 places that he recommended review. And Jeff, I don't know how you want me to handle that.
Well, I think it needs to be put into the record,
Okay,
and then the committee needs to address those after, and if there's a legitimate concern,
Right.
then we can discuss it and have a public back and forth. And if we're gonna change something, then we would amend the ordinance based on what they said.
okay,
Yes.
But I think that needs to be given to Augie, who already has it, and that it needs to be part of the permanent record, okay?
That Cypress Creek that's not the people over in Kansas, are they?
You know, I don't recall, it sounds familiar, but my understanding they've just gone through another sale. So I don't recall the name of it.
Is that all right with you, Lisa? I think we need to make sure that we make it part of the record. And I don't know whether those points are legitimate or not, and your committee is gonna have to determine. And they may say, yeah, but, but,
okay.
okay? And we appreciate them offering their opinion, just like everybody else. But we're not gonna make any changes based upon that letter at this point,
Okay.
okay? If the rest of the board agrees with me, that is.
I agree.
Okay. Did you have anything else that you
That's it.
wanted?
Those are my changes that I know of.
Did you want to make a motion to approve the, let's see, we'll make that, it's a resolution, isn't it?
Yeah, the resolution would just codify the ordinance, so however you want to word it.
Anyway, if you want to move the approval of this ordinance as you have amended at the meeting today,
Okay,
okay?
so I make a motion that we approve this ordinance with the amendments that we made today.
Do I have a second? Phil seconds.
Always on your side.
Are there any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Lawton,
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
The ordinance is passed. And as the chairman of the committee has said, it is a fluid living document. And we will, as well as the wind ordinance, continue to look at this ordinance, especially in light of comments that were made here today and any correspondence that we received. And we thank everybody for their input. Next item is the Edgar County Cannabis Business Establishment Ordinance. Basically, we were made aware that the city had passed an ordinance outlawing or prohibiting any type of growing, distribution, shipping, and dispensary of cannabis in this city. To which we then asked the state's attorneys to take a look at what we might do, and we have developed an ordinance which prohibits the distribution, growth, and dissemination or retail sales of cannabis in the unincorporated areas of this county, to put it simple, okay? So, that's where it is. Does the board have any questions about that ordinance? Entertain a motion to approve. Phil moves. Russ seconds. Further discussion, please. Mr. Clerk.
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Lawton,
Yes.
Ludington,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Again, this is a fluid document, or a living document. I mean, there may be some changes, in the future, but I think that represents the, yes.
Could you send a copy to the current growers?
Oh, you mean the private ones? We didn't mean to shut them down, no. No jokes. All right. We'll send that letter to the sheriff.
There you go.
Okay, we'll do department heads first. Augie?
Yeah, we're in the middle of petition filing week. And so we will continue to accept filing petitions until Monday, March 14th at 4 p.m. That's the last time you can file one. So if there's any questions about that, please feel free to let me know. Other than that, let's see, there was one other thing. Can I will you circle back to me so I can find it?
Absolutely.
Please and thank you.
Dina?
We are woefully behind. I've been sitting at my desk calculating house after house after house for a year now. Kathy has helped me, and we just had a third person join in about a month ago. I think at last count, we have 867 houses to go, or properties, I should say, so we'll get there. We're still scratching our head at sales. We used to really take a peek when we'd see a house sell for $200,000, $300,000. It's everyday business now. Never seen anything like it. Not in my 40 years of being here. Never seen anything like it. So, that's it.
Any questions of Dina?
You said you had a bunch of houses that you were behind on. What are those for?
The Paris Quad. Paris
Okay.
has about 6,000 parcels, and each one into the new system, data entry, how many square feet, bathrooms, decks, how many floors, all that has to be handled one parcel at a time. So it's slow going, but we should catch up again once we get this done.
Dina and I have discussed, and I hope you don't mind, but she is looking to put somebody else on to assist. She was trying to, well, I'll let you talk.
Well,
You were
we-
trying to,
When David retired, what, a year, oh gosh, it's a year and a half now.
it's fast.
We thought, well, we're gonna try and do it without him, and we've progressively fallen farther behind, so we're really looking hard at replacing him now. Just
And you
to
think you
get
found a
this done.
very nice
We
candidate?
have someone that personalities have clicked well, and so we're looking at her, yes.
I just wanted the board to be aware of that. Tom?
Not much new to report. February traditionally is our slowest month of the year. And the good news is this February though was our, within 14 gallons of our best February ever, so. In spite of the weather, we did okay.
Everything's working okay out there? All the readers, the new document, or the new bumping system is all working
Yes,
great?
very well.
And it won't be long till we'll be firing up some machines and getting that taxiway straightened out and finished. We've got the project for resurfacing the main runway.
The survey work was done last week on the resurfacing of the runway.
Okay, that won't take place probably till next year. And then we've got the new control systems going in, and I'm not sure exactly when you think that'll go in.
I couldn't hazard a guess at this moment.
And the feds have dumped a new $5 billion airport grant program out there asking for projects. So we're gonna take a look at that with the engineers. Question, Carl?
5 million?
Billion.
That's not all for us.
Oh.
It's not ours.
It's a program that we can tap.
Apply.
Yes, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
thought
I thought.
I probably didn't make that clear enough, Carl. Yeah, they're gonna dump $5 billion on us. We're gonna turn it into the Paris International Airport. Okay, well, that really wouldn't build much of an airport, I'm afraid, anymore, but. Anything else, Tom? I got us
No, thank you.
kinda off the track. Scott?
I don't really have much. I went out to the building, I think Friday, and it looks great. And they're moving along quick, so.
Concrete guys were there yesterday. Aaron, when are they looking to pour?
They're pouring right now.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I
the
hadn't
plum-
gotten a chance to tell
Yeah,
you.
the plumbing was out there, I think Friday.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no, I
all,
appreciate you keeping me up. and,
that's all roughed in.
It looks great. I need to get with Dirk on a few questions, but that's, like logistics of when I do move some of the bigger stuff, if they can help me, but, Housing Authority, we're taking bids, we're getting ready to finish taking bids on the roof. We'll see how much of a surprise that's gonna be. And, other than that, that's all we got going on.
Any questions of our coroner or our housing authority director? Okay, Jill?
Our next hazard mitigation meeting is Tuesday, April 5th at 5 o'clock. And then I will get with Lisa and whoever else I need to start the process of the hazard mitigation with the solar farm.
Okay. To plug it into how we, because you're
Get a
just,
plan in place and get started moving on.
right, because you just recently got dumped in as
Yes.
yeah.
I walked into it this morning.
Well, that's fine.
No.
Any questions? Have they been out and done anything with your door yet? I know they were going to, but,
Ray's been out a few times, he's fixed a couple things, minor things, our water heater's still coming in and things like that, and he was waiting until springtime when it shrunk I don't know, or something, and he was gonna fix things.
all right, very good.
He's been checking in with us frequently, so.
Thanks. I'm glad that's happening. Aaron?
Just waiting on Thursday, big event Thursday evening. Snow is supposed to snow a little bit Thursday night, just a joke.
Can we afford to put the trucks out?
We're ready, yeah, we're ready. Now, just the board have any questions for the highway department?
Callie, did you have anything?
You're gonna snow.
Nice to have you here. Nice to see you. Augie?
Yeah, it was, I just want to make a brief comment that I received information from IMRF that in 2021, their investment return was a little over 16%, which puts them at nearly 100% funded as a pension plan. So I just wanted to mention that, and it's an absolutely unheard of number when all the other state retirement plans are at best 50% funded. So thank you to the board for that benefit and making those extra payments to help lower our portion of the unfunded liability.
Any questions of Augie on that?
I've got a question, Callie. You're involved in Neighborhood Watch, aren't you? Part of it. How's that going?
Seems to be going well. There's a little bit of hesitancy on some of the people in town. They're afraid of, they're a little bit apathetic and unsure, a little bit apathetic, that they're unsure that anything can help. They don't have much confidence in the police force doing anything. So I think that's changing. I think that's changing a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit more activity.
Just curious.
I think it'll take some time to get better.
Okay, from Don's standpoint, you do have the single sheet on cash flow. I would note that there are the number 821 capital, airport capital should be a 0, and that the funds that shows is a negative, which would be the 16,752, should be coming out of the farm fund. So once that's done, that's squared away. Augie's fund, which is in the negative right now, we planned on, hopefully we have some grant money or incoming help from the state that will help to erase that. We're just doing the best we can and looking at it. You will note that the general fund at the top is to the good 270 grand, and that's would be even more, but we're early in the month. We've only received sales and supplemental sales tax and the personal property tax. We have received nothing else in from the state of Illinois, which is not abnormal. It's just, it's gonna come in here in the next few days. Yes, John?
What you got in the animal control funds?
How much have we got in the animal control funds? Well, give me a chance to take a look. Rabies funds has 2 grand in it. We got donation shelter funds of 11. The dog fund has 472. there's several places on here, John, you're gonna have to give me a minute. And there's a copy of this up here if you wanna,
All right, I'll just get it later.
yeah, and they're here, okay?
Pet population's 12,000.
Thank you.
About 20 total.
Yeah, the pet population is used to supplement, people that meet, income requirements to have their pets spayed or neutered, okay? So,
We have 12,000 pets?
$12,000.
Why they said population?
Probably got more than that.
that's one big pet.
Cats?
Sorry, Kirk, you can make a joke, I can.
Oh, you bet.
All right. So, at any rate, you can see that, most of our funds are in pretty good shape. Don't be alarmed about tort terribly, because we had to pay everything, you know, pretty much up front, so we're in pretty good shape, so. Any questions or comments on Don's? The auditors will be coming in, I think the 21st. It would be a week from, well, the 21st, whenever the
I
20th.
think they're coming in next week.
I'm sorry, the
Sir.
14th.
Okay.
The 14th they're coming. So that's Don's, okay? Any other department heads I missed? Okay, we'll go on to committee reports. Dan?
Not much. Andrew gave a nice report at our meeting on Monday, and everything at the shelter is running well. Got the cameras working and full of animals, so if you need to adopt a dog, we could try a few. Got what, 25, I think, out there right now. So kind of difficult getting rid of some of them, but she does a great job out there. I told her we probably had the best shelter in the state. So she thinks so. Other than that, nothing. Could use a little help with the cats, but that's beside the point. Okay.
Are you done?
Yes, I am.
Andy?
The remodeling of the upstairs, the jail is going along. I was up there the other day. They got both the heaters working, and they got most of the electrical run for the lighting. They haven't got the lights in. I don't know whether they're waiting for them, but so they wait for them. I figured that. But they have been doing a little bit of work there. The balance has come in early, so they should be able to get that done in decent time. So,
Yeah, the sheriff thought if everything went right, possibly within 30 days, they could maybe get some people in there.
would be nice.
They're gonna be just for women.
It's up to
It just, it depends. I mean, they're, you know, like if they only got 2 women, they'll move them upstairs to, like, they've got them on the east cell block, and that'll open it up for 10 males.
Okay.
So, but then, you know, if they have weekenders, they can put them up, you know, it just depends on what type of, how many prisoners and type of prisoners they've got, so
Okay,
it
that's
should
wonderful.
be variable.
The jail population has dropped a little.
Yeah, it was 40, what, 2 weeks ago, and they had all those DOC prisoners, and they got rid of 8 of them. I think they're holding 1 now, but it was down to 26 last Friday.
Okay. Bill, nothing? Russ, no? How about you, Carl?
We got to meet with the sheriff this afternoon, sheriff's committee's meeting.
That's tomorrow afternoon.
Pardon?
It's tomorrow afternoon.
You said it was Wednesday afternoon.
Okay,
Did he
remember
not?
you said it's not Wednesday, it is actually tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Because remember you said, I thought it's not
I thought
Wednesday.
he said it was gonna be Thursday, but then yesterday you said it's Wednesday.
That's just the opposite of what we said.
Well, you
I'll
haven't-
call afterwards and
It's
determine.
okay, we'll get it squared away.
Yeah.
I've got it on, put it on my calendar as Thursday too. You're the one that said it was gonna be
Well,
Wednesday. and I didn't.
You said Wednesday.
He said, she said. He said.
At any rate,
He said, she said.
it's,
Check the video.
we'll check.
Yeah, I think I'll find out I'm right, but.
You know, it really don't matter.
When's the meeting?
I don't know.
Yesterday.
Too many meetings.
But anyway, that's all I had, but I have, depending on what Lisa found out on the food program, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So I'll wait and see what she has to report.
We got a meeting next week, so I'll bring it up with the Aiken County Board, Health Board, so I'll mention it, see what they say.
I'm done.
Okay. Lisa?
HRC 708 board met last month, and they are starting to utilize the funds and see a difference. We have awarded them, provided them with some funds this year to be used for training of their staff, and staff have been going to training. That was a good meeting. I spoke with Amanda Miner yesterday regarding the summer youth nutrition program. And Amanda said that the reads from, is it Off the Track? I didn't want to say what we call it. Anyway, that the Reeds are taking the responsibility for that and dealing with the paperwork and the grant application, which I am sure is a big stretch for them. But they must have a not-for-profit sponsor, so that's what they're looking for next. One of the folks that they were going to talk to was the chamber, but they should be able to find a sponsor. The biggest hiccup is the state just announced, right while all these different counties are trying to figure this out, the state just announced that there must be a host site, that you can't do home deliveries. So that just really screws everything up for downstate Illinois. So at this time, nothing is needed from the board.
So clarification, you need a host site, so you can't deliver.
You can't deliver to homes, so, are they gonna go to work with the church at Vermillion and try to make the Vermillion church be the location? And what will the impact be for volunteers, and will the driver, they have their drivers pretty well identified, and it's mostly the youth that were helping them last year with the hiring and transportation. So that's a pretty solid core, but that just really threw a kink in their plans.
Now, the problem is, a lot of kids don't have a source where somebody can come and get the food and bring it to them. So that's gonna present a big problem.
It is. It is, and if they have a problem with locations, will they have to maybe do 3 days a week instead of 5? They just don't know. That really, they're trying to parse that one out.
Lisa, did you and Amanda talk about, okay, we got 3 months left to get this, or 2.5 months, what are we gonna do?
That's where they are. They thought Reeds are totally on board with, and of course Amanda will help them with doing the grant. They've got to find their not-for-profit sponsor, and then they've got to figure out how to handle this change that they just learned about.
Can school systems be their partner?
They could.
I know, you're president of District 95, aren't you?
No, high school.
At the high school, okay. Well, I know, I've talked with you, and you talked with Dr. Larson, and you guys are supportive of it. I've talked to the president of the district, 4, and they thought it was a good program. So I don't know whether the schools could maybe, be involved somehow. I don't know how.
I don't understand, they need a not-for-profit, a government agency can't be the sponsor?
I know nothing else. So, Tom, I don't know if you need to get involved in contact.
Actually, it'd have to
Reeds.
go through 95 or Unit 4,
Right.
as opposed to the high school, since the high school takes their orders from
Right.
Unit 4
Sure.
and 95.
Okay.
But I'm sure Dr. Larson and the District 95 board and Unit 4 would be supportive of it. I know last year, Shiloh School District, they were on board with it. It was Kansas, I think Kansas was, Chrisman didn't want to get involved, but I think Kansas and Shiloh were involved in it
That's correct.
to help.
At some level,
Right.
yeah. It needs to be done. We gotta
Yeah.
figure it out.
Right.
Carl, I'd be Kevin Knopf for 95.
He's the president.
Yes.
But you're on the board
Yes.
of 95, right?
Well, we called and we found out not what we wanted to find out, huh?
Well, the good thing is that the Reeds are committed. So your food supply, food preparation, transportation is somewhat there. It's the rest of the challenges.
Coming to one location, that's one.
Did it say one location, or you just can't deliver?
You can't deliver to homes.
I know, I'm
That is
curious how
just,
that is.
Well, that's not comprehending downstate needs.
Right. I'm curious how that's, is that large as part of a stipulation on a grant, or?
we don't know.
Right.
You talked to Carl about making meals like.
I'm sure there was a committee of bureaucrats in Springfield that came up with it.
She talked to him a couple times.
Okay, do you have anything else at this point?
I do. As a follow-up to our meeting with department heads yesterday, I realized I do know a tech person who I think is available part-time. And so I emailed Ross and gave him his contact information. That's all.
Sorry.
So how did the meeting go? I mean, was everybody receptive to it?
Yes, it went great. We've already put in an application. It's gonna be processed in 10 days for a domain change. I think, I'll let Augie, you're an office holder, or anybody who was there, what you felt about it rather than me doing my thing. You tell them.
I thought it was a very good meeting. We had good attendance. Not all, but most department heads were there, and we discussed
911 was there.
911 was there. We discussed, Ross pretty much led the conversation, but we all discussed what a new email system and a new domain would look like, especially given the new law that the election authorities have to go to a .gov domain in the website, which it provides an extra layer of security, because you can only have a .gov address if you file an application, get approved from the government. So that was well received, I believe. And Ross explained the new email system. I think, I'm not speaking for everybody, but it sounds like we were all on board with what he had to tell us. Ample, more than ample storage. We should never, because it's all gonna be hosted up in the cloud, is that right?
Yep.
Somewhere, and,
It was a
Short of
solid
it.
meeting. Everybody got to put their 2 cents or 4 cents
So to
in.
clarify, our website will be all spelled out, just like it is now, Edgar County, Illinois, only it will be .gov. And so that will also be email addresses at edgarcountyillinois.gov.
Yes.
You're gonna keep the .com and have an auto forward to the .gov so people don't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it'll all, and if you send something to the old system, it'll automatically give you a message with an address to update your system.
All right, just make sure I know where to send a FOIA request.
Another county straight west. Yes, sir.
Did he discuss if it's in the cloud, do we have a physical backup on a regular basis that's not in the cloud?
Yes, we actually have redundancy here too, yes.
Okay, because that's what got the AG, when they got hacked, they lost everything.
We have it now, we'll have it then. Yes, sir. Anything else? Didn't mean to cut you off, Lisa.
That's it.
Okay. It just kills me to say this. I mean, it absolutely kills me to say this, but our meeting is this afternoon at 2 o'clock. All right, Carl was right, I was confused. All right, so we're all good, but that was the burning question right now, okay?
Confusion kind of goes through age.
So, Carl 1, Jeff 0. I'm glad we got, I would have showed up yet tomorrow, so whatever. Everything seems to be going fine. I don't know of any outstanding personnel issues. We talked about still getting together, and by the way, the department heads would like to start having a periodic meeting again, which I thought was good, just to improve communications. We're still gonna try to knock out over a couple of meetings in May and April, the personnel policy. And Lisa talked about that, that's been hanging fire. So we got a lot of good things going on, okay? So, the architects tell me we'll be able to make a site selection as soon as April, if we would like. We'll have all the environmental done by then, that's the only thing holding it up right now. They're gonna start looking at advanced school interior to see what it actually can and should hold, so that we make the best use of that space. From ESDA to 911 to the clerk, I think, the clerks and so forth. They're gonna be starting to interview the different office holders to talk to them about their needs and space requirements and what kind of security they need, all of those items. So we'll be addressing those also.
I do have a question on that.
Yes, Kelly?
The people that own Advanced School now contacted me about doing an auction, possibly. I have not looked at what's in there.
If you need to get in there, Josh has the access. Josh Knight out at the Highway Department is the individual that you would want to contact. And he does have keys to that building and permission from the owners to allow approved folks in there, okay?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome, Kelly. Anything else to come before the meeting or any questions of me? Let me just review real quick to make sure I didn't forget anything again.
You need a bigger phone.
Nope, we're good. Motion to adjourn? Phil and Andy, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We're adjourned, folks. Thank you so much. Aaron, I need to ask you a question. Thank you.